You're listening to We Deepen Media.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Deepen with Christina. I'm your host, Christina Weber, founder and CEO of We Deepen, Feminine Weapon, and also a certified professional love coach and matchmaker. If you haven't lately, go check out wedeepen.com, see all the upcoming social and transformational experiences. You can click on that social calendar. If you also scroll down on the front page, you'll see these featured events. And one of the featured events, which we're going to talk about today, is the Wonderland Conference, which is coming up in Miami. It is November 9th through the 11th. It is the world's premier psychedelic medicine, mental health, and longevity conference. I will be there. I'll be facilitating the Dating Dojo, a playful portal, and a mind-blowing intimacy panel. I would love to have you come join us. And if you've been listening to this podcast, you've heard me tease about the Love Club. Actually, the last episode that was released is all about the Love Club. And those who register to join this 6-month peer-to-peer matchmaking accelerator to enliven your intimacy journey will get a free ticket to come and join me at the Wonderland Conference. And what I'll always remember, one of my mentors, who is a social psychologist, Dr. Sarah Nazaratum, years ago had said to me, if you are currently single and you're imagining who you would like to be in relationship with, consider where that person would be and go to those types of places. And I am somebody who wants to live a long, healthy life. So I know that an event like the Wonderland Conference are going to be the people who actually care about that too. And I know most of my listeners, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably want a healthy, epic love life, which means that you need somebody who's going to participate in that experience with you, somebody who's growth-minded, who's willing to try all the biohacks and even attend therapy, maybe do some psychedelics. And those are the people who are going to be at this conference. I am excited now to see that there is this like evolutionary wave of openness to conference, bringing experiences that enable their attendees to connect in more deeper, intimate ways, like the Dating Dojo at the Wonderland Conference. The event itself is for people who are currently single or in an open relationship, are practicing polyamory. I also am not leaving out, one of the guidelines for the container that we set at the Dating Dojo is that don't make any assumptions about anybody's relationship status. It doesn't need to be an intimate connection that you've made. I've heard of people who have met at the Dating Dojo when we did it at the biohacking conference in 2022, is that there's some best friends that were formulated and mentorships that happened from that, best friendships. It doesn't need to be always fully romantic. When we go into these places and we're willing to remove the layers of our ego and really be present with one another and embark in a journey that can sometimes feel uncomfortable, because when you're playing with your emotions and you're practicing love, it's not something that we do every single day. We tend to be very intellectual human beings, and this allows us to drop further into our heart, which is something that psychedelics do. I've did my first ayahuasca ceremony back in 2015 and have done a lot of work with that medicine, and also experimented with psilocybin mushrooms and iboga. So these are my types of people who are at the Wonderland Conference. And if they're your types of people, come and join us. You can see at wedeepen.com, there is a link in the nav to visit the Love Club, and you can apply. You can read all about it. Love to have you join. This is definitely for you because it's an investment if you are currently single and you're done swiping on dating apps. Who wants to swipe on dating apps anymore? Like, let's go be with each other in person. If you do enjoy this podcast, please do rate, like, subscribe. I release an episode weekly. and you'll be notified each time an episode gets released. Give it 5 stars. Also share this podcast with a friend if you enjoy it. While I love connecting with you in this way virtually, what I even love more is being with you in real life, in person, or supporting you in your love life. I'm grateful that now through the Love Club, I'll get to do that with a, one to many, and bring you guys all together. So we all get to be together and be comrades for each other's love life. So today I wanted to tell you, make sure that you have more information about the Wonderland Conference. I want to know more. It's going to be my first time at the Wonderland Conference. So I have invited Daniela, Pauli, who is sales and sponsorships, partnerships for Microdose, who is the company that is bringing us the Wonderland Conference. I believe is this the 3rd year?
This is the 3rd year. Yeah.
This is the 3rd year. And so about 3,000 to 4,000 people will be gathering in Miami. Generally, historically, it's been a lot of people within the industry, doctors, researchers, investors, CEOs of companies that are bringing, microdose products out into the world, and longevity, mental health, things that will be supportive of you having a healthy, all around 360 healthy life. And so we're going to get into what the conference is about. Daniela, welcome to the podcast.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to connect with you.
Yes. Let's start by, first off, how did you get involved with Wonderland?
So I have been kind of experimenting with psychedelics and psychedelic medicine since I was 18 years old. So I'm 33, so quite a long time, and have always gone to all of the conferences, networking events in New York. Any meetup that I could find in Manhattan, I was there, just wanting to learn more, so eager to learn more about people who are doing research in psychedelic medicine, just meeting other individuals who have benefited from psychedelic medicine. And I wanted to learn more from them directly. And 10 years ago was a little bit more quiet and hush hush. Not many people were out, in the mainstream speaking with others about their psychedelic journeys. So I was very active in networking already and attending a lot of events and building my own networks of people to learn from. During COVID, I was learning from other people in the industry that there was more interest, and there was a mental health crisis. People were speaking out about how psychedelics were, helping them with depression, and some other, any symptoms of any psychological disorders that were being enhanced or amplified from what was going on with COVID and us being isolated. So I just started doing my research, and I looked into kind of, how can I get more involved and help, because I've built so many relationships in the industry. And I cared so much about wanting more people to learn about the benefits of whether it's, microdosing with mushrooms, or just more about research and what's happening in the space. So I saw that Microdose was doing virtual psychedelic events. And I reached out to them directly, and I learned about Wonderland, this conference they wanted to build to bring people together in person and kind of build a voice for the industry. We had psychedelic science conferences. We had other conferences to learn about research, but we didn't have something that really big that kind of brought all the organizations together and all the people together that really cared and wanted this to be more of a global movement. And I immediately, was excited, and I told them that I could really help build this conference to be that voice. And I've been with them ever since. And I already had relationships with people in the industry. So I was able to bring them on board to be a part of the conference, and just recognize that I had the skills in relationship building from other startups and businesses that I worked in. And also the personal experience to connect with other people who are very passionate.
As somebody who is senior to you by nearly a decade, and who lived in New York City for 12 years. That's where I was when I graduated college.
I lived for 7 years, but I'm from New Jersey. I moved to New York 7 years ago, but I've been in and out of Manhattan, just because I've been close to Manhattan for a very long time. Yeah.
So I arrived there in 2003, and that was when Sex and the City was in its prime. And we watched, Carrie Bradshaw go to all these fancy restaurants and drink her martinis. And that's what the behavior that was modeled to us. And to hear that now you at 18 were diving deeper into psychedelics, because alcohol is so limited. Like I remember my 20s so often waking up with these hangovers, and I was never a good drinker. Like there was times I would go out and, oh gosh, this is so embarrassing, but there was like one New Year's at 48 Lounge in outside of Times Square. I fell asleep after the ball dropped on the couch because it just overwhelming alcohol. That's what it's like. Lots of is bottle services and, fancy drinks and cocktails, lots of money. We spent a ton of money on alcohol. And it sounds as though you bypassed some of that by getting pulled, or this interest in psychedelics at such a young age. How has alcohol played a part in your life?
This is such a great question that a lot of people ask me about when I mentioned that I was just one of the many people who, I know there are other people out there who experimented very young with cannabis and mushrooms or MDMA. I never liked alcohol. I mean, I still, maybe a couple of times a year or so, very randomly. I won't say that I never drink alcohol, a glass of wine here or there, but I've never been someone who craved alcohol, even when I was younger in high school or college. Obviously I experimented with it, but I actually preferred cannabis. So I just never was drawn to alcohol. I didn't like feeling hungover. I didn't like the after effects of what would happen to my body. I just was very aware that I didn't enjoy that experience. And the one thing I didn't share, which is kind of sad, but I want to mention, which is very big catalyst as to why I started experimenting young with altered states or psychedelics, or just became so much more curious at a younger age, was I had a best friend that passed away in a car accident when I was 16. So I grew up a very privileged, beautiful life, have amazing parents and a wonderful foundation. But grieving was really hard at that age for any human being, no matter what we're going through, no matter how much support you have. And I think psychedelics and even cannabis at the time, I think, was very medicinal. And coupled with, I was very just curious about consciousness. So I had this blend of just curiosity and also obviously with therapy at that time, very much was benefiting from experimenting with mushrooms and even with MDMA as well, just very therapeutic with my friends and helped me really reconnect with what mattered to me at that time in my life. And I just didn't feel like alcohol was the way that I wanted to explore my mind or even explore my connections. But still, like I said, I don't say that I never drank. I just always wanted to, experiment with other options that I felt were more beneficial. And I looked at alcohol as like a pairing with like a really amazing dinner, or, you know what I mean? I only saw it as like, that's the way that I want to experience it. I didn't want it to be the only way that I explored my own consciousness, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. Yeah. It was in New York City back in the, early 2000s. It was really, alcohol was ingrained in the culture. I mean, it still is in a lot of places.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And then when I transitioned to Los Angeles, I did 12 years in New York City. And then around 35, 36, I moved to LA. And LA is probably one of the capitals of, like, one of the rehab capitals of the US. You have a lot of beautiful Malibu centers, and a lot of people that I met there were in AA. And I was first beginning my work as working one-on-one with clients in a dating coaching capacity. And I wanted to really drop further into understanding my own emotions. So I committed to do 365 days a year without alcohol.
Wow.
And it shifted my entire relationship with it. And partly one of the reasons why I did it was not only to understand my own emotions, and so I could feel what it's like to date sober on my own, so I could be supportive to other people and recommending activities and things that they could do that weren't oriented around alcohol. But I also found that it was really challenging because I was still in a social circle where there was a lot of alcohol involved in our, in when we would be together. And it was hard for me to say like, yes, one night and no another night. And so I just cut it out. I'm like, that will make it easier. I'm never a yes. And it was one of the best years of my life. Since then, I'm now like you, where I may have a glass of wine or a glass of sake here and there. But it's really rare. And I don't think about it as much. But prior to that, I definitely thought about alcohol a lot. Cannabis, my relationship in cannabis changed. I'm a startup founder. We Deepen, we wanted to use this podcast for you to get to know me a little bit more. We Deepen initially was created. New York City, 2014 to 2016, I ran what I called a curated dating experience. We would bring together 20 men, 20 women for 3 hours, and we'd facilitate a series of activities designed to foster connection, accelerate closeness. And I would curate all the people in this group. If they seemed like a fit, after filling out a survey and having a one-on-one call with them, I would give them a password to register. And I hosted this event series for 2 years. And over that period of time, I learned, what I saw was that there was a lot of expectation, pressure, anxiety, confusion, heartbreak that would show up into the space that people were navigating on their own. And while this experience, because I thought I'd just get a bunch of dope people into a room and we'd all live happily ever after. Yeah. And then, when I looked deeper, I was like, wow, most people didn't grow up observing healthy relationships. And the topic of love, relationship, anything that can be supportive to have you have a healthy relationship is neglected in our educational curriculums. So there was a craving to learn love and study love and the skills to be really good at love. And thank goodness around that time in 2014, just as Tinder was becoming all the rage, so was TED Talks. And TED Talks gave us an insight to these speakers that were coming forth, who were, Esther Perel, Dr. John Gray, Gay and Katie Hendricks, Brene Brown, and giving insights on what tools and information and how to consider relationships. Even like Helen Fisher did a TED Talk on the brain on
hers. Yeah.
The brain on love. And so I realized, I need these people. First off, bonds build best over time. So you need people to see each other again and again and again. And they're craving relationship education. I saw a lot of that curriculum happening in like transformational workshops, but hosted by, there was no one central location to discover all of the workshops that could help you have a healthy relationship. So let's bring them into one central location. Also, following Esther Perel's work, we're more inclined to make connection with another human being when we're in states of play and joy and fun. So let's bring in ecstatic dances and improv workshops and group meditations to calm and ease the mind. And that did eventually expand. We Deepen we're still pretty small at this moment. We did pre-COVID raise a round of funding, and I had got offered an acquisition for hire, and we were growing. But now we're kind of reconfiguring at this moment. So there are times we do share psychedelic journeys through We Deepen. And they might not be directly on the platform, but we have a bunch of WhatsApp groups happening in the back end that people will share really unique ceremonies, or Zendo Stereo is one who sometimes will do that with some microdose of psychedelics, and you put on these headsets and go deeper into a journey. And
so lovely.
Yeah. And you're more open. Your heart is open and connecting. So that's I know the journey into We Deepen. And now we're able to share experiences like the Wonderland Conference, as well as the Biohacking Conference and Summit at Sea, and through the platform. And it's seeing that people, are journeying through, and they're all people who desire healthy, epic love. But cannabis, that's why I started to talk about cannabis. My reason why I brought this up was cannabis. As I was building this, ecosystem as being a green entrepreneur, meaning a first-time entrepreneur, I developed a lovership with cannabis, because I would work all day. I'd still have more to do. So I'd smoke a little bit, and then it would enliven me, and I could keep going and working until I realized that kind of that same challenge I had with alcohol was I noticed that I wanted more nights that I didn't. And that's when I feel like my relationship needs to shift. And thank goodness for Andrew Huberman. He did a podcast on cannabis about a year ago, and I listened to that episode.
So did I. Yeah, it was needed for a lot of people.
How did that episode affect you?
Well, it was interesting. I'm glad that he put that out there, because I'm actually, when I was younger, I think, mindlessly using cannabis, smoking. And then also because I was grieving, I wasn't aware. I was never smoking alone. So it's actually, I can't relate to anyone smoking alone. I was more of just a social smoker. But I was definitely being very mindless, and I was very foggy. I have very foggy memories during that time. And I actually took a very long break, a 4.5-year break from cannabis during the time that I was experimenting with psychedelics for those first 4 years that I was. And when I came back to using cannabis, it was with edibles. So I really enjoy the embodied experience. I really am drawn to, as you were mentioning, with these workshops that you do, and bringing people together, just feel more connected. Really just bringing them back into their bodies, just feeling that embodied experience. I recognized how powerful it was and beautiful it was to take a 5-10 milligram edible. And I just wanted to develop a new relationship with it. So just to relate to you a little bit, I took a very long break, but I recognized that I did not want to use this every day. I really saw it as just a beautiful way to enhance whatever I'm doing, or whatever I'm experiencing, or whoever I'm sharing my time with, everything, food, music, or just the moment. I just felt more dropped in. Even though I feel that I'm a pretty present person, and I've actively worked on that. For me, and how it impacts me, it just amplifies that experience, just makes everything more enhanced, and it's really beautiful. But I was like, okay, I only want to do this once a week, or, save it for once every other week, like a treat after I've worked really hard, and I'm going to, make a really delicious meal, or I'm going to go out with my friends. And that's how I use it. And because I foresaw just what you were sharing, where I was like, I know that I had this relationship with it when I was younger that I became very mindless with, or, didn't really use it as intentionally as I'd like to. And then when Huberman came out with that podcast, I was like, well, he kind of made it very clear. It's not going to be the most beneficial for anyone to be ingesting or using cannabis every single day, especially smoking, because smoking is, we all know that you shouldn't be smoking every day, but even with eating it, just the effects that it has. So, but yeah, just to relate. And then I think when he came out with that podcast, I was very, very happy that I have this very moderate relationship with it. Yeah.
I'm going to link that podcast episode in the description of this episode. I highly recommend checking it out. If you ever smoke cannabis, you do smoke cannabis, or you know anyone that smokes cannabis, So everybody listen to that podcast as cannabis keeps trending and spreading throughout the United States, as some more smoke shops are opening up, our distilleries. Daniela, what are some trends? Like this is the industry itself of psychedelics. First off, it's a new industry. The industry didn't exist before.
Oh, very new. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a little insight to what you're seeing as somebody who works within the industry? Yeah,
I think that right now there's a little bit of a lull. It's a very interesting time for the industry. We're, at least for the psychedelic space, I think that I'm seeing a lot of growth and a lot of even just some of our sponsors who are building these brands of alternatives to alcohol, which is kind of what we were just talking about. So not even directly within the psychedelic industry, but they're supporters of the industry. So these are adaptogen drinks or functional mushroom products, or even there's a company called New Brew or these other drink companies that, these entrepreneurs have some incredible stories where, psychedelic medicine really saved them through a hard time, or maybe, they were dealing with addiction or dealing with an issue. And, they're going to share their stories on our stage about how it drove them to be motivated to create a product for people in the United States to be able to use and share with their friends and to enhance their mood that is not alcohol or not something that could be dangerous to their bodies. And it was because of their ayahuasca journey. It was because of their, using psychedelics, even just, using them as tools and recognizing the value in that helped them to be a better business owner, or help them to start an organization or a nonprofit to help others with the mission that they really cared about. So right now, I would say I'm seeing a lot of that, just that kind of activity. As far as the biotech space, I think what we're going to talk about at Wonderland, there is a crossover even with, I always say, with like research on like neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia. So there's a lot of interest in doing research on that. But there are biotech companies that are looking at, analogs of psychedelic compounds or psychedelics to see how it could help potentially prevent dementia or help patients who have dementia or Alzheimer's that are also suffering from depression. And this bleeds into the longevity industry a little bit too, because they're looking at, how can we live longer, healthier lives? How can we improve our cognitive abilities, if not, help to enhance them for a longer period of time while we're on this earth? So there's there's going to be a lot of discussions around that. So there's a lot of interest there. And I'm trying to think, there's so much to talk about. And also I think overall, I think the kind of marriage with the psychedelic industry and the biohacking and longevity industry specifically, we're seeing just people coming out and telling their stories, or even patients or even clinicians who are now actively involved in the industry, sharing about just seeing a rapid change in behavior from psychedelic medicine or psychedelic assisted psychotherapy for their patients. And now people are kind of coming on the other side where maybe they're recognizing ayahuasca as, a beautiful medicine they can use every year, or maybe mushrooms is more of their choice, but they're recognizing, okay, I want to sustain this mindful state of awareness every day, or I want to be more action-based and take more action on my life. And what are those next steps? Like, how can I live longer? How can I live healthier? How can I live with more purpose? And there's so many elements to that. And I think the longevity space really brings that in, where there's people actively working on that, whether it's tech or medicine or looking at research, you know what I mean, to help everyone live a longer, healthier life. We're also seeing people just even as consumers making better choices. So yeah, there's many different areas that I can get into, but that's kind of where we're seeing this blend of these industries kind of coming together. As far as to forecast what's going to happen in the psychedelic industry over the next year or so, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say anything specifically, but we'll see when you're at Wonderland. You can kind of learn from the people that are actually in the space. You can learn from them directly there.
Did you just tease us?
I tease.
You teased us. I know
you're going to a bit, but I teased.
You did. So you're going to be like, you're in production mode right now. The event is less than a month out. And I know there on site, you're going to be, working. I've been part of big productions before in the past, but if somebody was going to come to this conference, how would you guide them based upon what you're most excited about?
Oh, okay. I would say, well, it really would depend on even what their goals are. You know what I mean? Coming to the conference. Sorry, my dog. Shh, Millie. Shh, Millie.
Oh, Millie.
So sorry. She's very vocal. Yeah, I think that it would really depend on, I have friends who want to, they're looking for jobs actively in the space. They want to step away from whatever industry they're in. They feel really passionate about the psychedelic movement, or they feel passionate about the longevity industry, and they really want to get involved in some capacity. So there's a lot of opportunities to network. There's a business lounge. There's definitely going to be other workshops and other cocktail hours and ways for people to get together and learn from other people directly, maybe that are in a position that they really, really want. And I'm telling my friends, or these people that are asking me who want to be more involved, I'm saying, look at some of the speakers, look at some of the topics that are going to be covered, and start to do your research and as we're promoting and sharing some of the workshops and other ways that you can meet other people in the industry, talk to people directly who are in a position that you would really love to be in. And then there are people who are just generally interested in learning more about the products or the new tech or anything that we're going to be sharing. I'm just telling them more about the companies that are going to be there, and how to just what panels they should go to if they have a specific interest in biohacking and psychedelics. So there's going to be a lot of, I'm giving people a lot of different avenues to take. I am going to be working the whole time, so just being able to be directly with our sponsors most of the time. But every year I try to at least sit on at least 2 panels. So I'm trying to figure out which ones I want to be able to save my time for that. And maybe your workshop as well.
So I'm going to be doing 2 workshops there.
Yes, please share. I want to, share with us, please. I want to learn more.
The first one is the Playful Portal, which is going to be the first night of the conference, November 9th. I believe our time slot is 5 p.m. And it's this gorgeous outdoor venue that you guys have hooked up for the Playful Portal to happen at. 100 people will register. I think this is an add-on. So you buy your conference tickets and then you add on the Playful Portal or the Dating Dojo. And the Playful Portal is a 60-minute play shop. It is a mix of improv meets clown. And a lot of people, when they hear clown, they're like, what is clown? Well,
what is clown?
What is clown? If you think of, and don't let clowns scare you. If you think of Lucille Ball or Charlie Chaplin, a lot of successful actors and actresses, they have a background in clown. And it's really when you drop from the head, it's very similar to a psychedelic experience. Because you're dropping out of the head and into the heart. We have these little buttons that we'll be handing out to all the attendees that say, shh, no talking, because you don't need to talk at all during clown. So for the 60 minutes, you just get to be fully present. We're going to play some music that and we'll guide you through activities for you to feel into your emotions moment by moment by moment while you're connecting with yourself and the other people inside of the space. And Playful Portal. So of course there's going to be play there. Oftentimes people believe that play is just about having fun, but play is also about experimenting. It's like when you're a child and you're tinkering with different things. And sometimes you trip things up. Sometimes like, you're like, oh, that didn't work, or that didn't feel good. So you're feeling into your body emotions. Like, do I feel comfortable? Do I feel uncomfortable? Am I in a state of bliss? Am I feeling a little bit of stress right now in the moment? We want you to feel everything and notice it. And throughout the journey, I actually just got to facilitate the Playful Portal at the Solar Punk Summit this past weekend. And some of the people afterwards, I'm so honored to be able to guide people through that experience, because I am also in my own journey as being the facilitator of it, because I'm in the whole play experience. Like, are they liking it? Are they not liking this? Are they having a good time? I'm not sure. Oh, they look really uncomfortable. Oh, now they look good. Are they going to run away? Because it is, when you step into a medicine ceremony, you generally tend to feel a little bit of discomfort. But that's when at the end of it, there's this like release. Wow, I did that. And it seems so simple to take the Playful Portal and make it so dramatic, because it's like, it was what I said, it sounded so dramatic, but it is, because you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. We don't do this type of work often. And when I say this type of work, it's the making eye contact. It's the removing your armor. It's to be fully present with another and present with yourself. And willing to surrender to guidance inside of that. So that's the Playful Portal. Doesn't matter your relationship status for that one. Everybody come be a part of the Playful Portal. You have to experience it at least once. And then the Dating Dojo. The Dating Dojo is going to happen on Saturday afternoon. I believe our slot is 12:30, and same venue that we'll be at. Outdoors. And that is a 90-minute experience. And the Dating Dojo, I'm going to be co-facilitating that with Ken Page of the Deeper Dating podcast and the Deeper Dating Intensive. He's a psychotherapist. Ken Page is like, he's a gay man. He's an OG. Ken was doing dating events in New York City circa 2004 for the LGBT community. Wow. He used to call himself chronically single. And now Ken he's one of my mentors. I go to him when I need relationship advice. And we're mixing a little bit of relationship education, intimacy education we'll start off with. And then we'll guide you through a series of activities where you'll get to engage with as many people in the room as possible. And we do that. We'll have a first, big opening icebreaker that will start to take the learnings that you just got and get you to practice what you've just learned. And then after that, we'll guide people into a kind of like a double a puja, they call it, like a worship, Tantra speed date. We represent all the Tantra speed dates. So if you go to wedeepen.com, you can see we have Tantra speed date happening in every major city throughout the United States and Amsterdam and beyond. Yeah, we do one in Brooklyn. I know you're in Brooklyn, and we have one in Soho on a monthly basis. They're by the Tantra Institute, and We Deepen represents them. And but yeah, so we'll have people paired up, and this experience is for whether you're whatever relational, what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever your relational practice is that what our makeup is? And when I mean that is, I don't care if your sexuality or if you're LGBT, come into that space. We're gonna, we actually, I see oftentimes in dating that people are hung up on the ideas of masculine and feminine energy. And I want to crush that at times, because sometimes there's shame that happens around that. Like, oh my God, I'm being too much in my masculine, or he's too feminine. And I really want to move us more into a state of authenticity and being fully who you are, and constantly growing and becoming the best version of yourself and your unique self. We're all so different. And so even what's masculine to me may be completely different what's masculine to you, and feminine vice versa. So we strip away that idea, those polarities, and we use instrumental and expressive. And so we'll have the instrumentals on the outside of the circle and the expressives on the inside of the circle, and we'll rotate. And you'll be prompted to answer different questions or different activities with each person, and then you'll rotate around. And so you'll get to meet as many people as possible with inside of the space. Again, it is it's an intimate relating experience, and that is not just romantic. You might meet your new best friend. You may meet a business partner. It's a great networking activity. Imagine you're dating everybody at the Wonderland conference, and maybe you even meet somebody who is currently single, and like the Love Club, inside of the Love Club, you might have somebody to match with for that person that you're meeting. So that's the dating dojo. And then I'm so blessed, by the way, so honored to be able to share in this way at the Wonderland conference. I'll also be facilitating a mind-blowing intimacy panel with Ken Page and Aziza from Precious Little Ladies, and Stell, who's a pro dominatrix. So we're going to dive deep into that one, and that will happen later that afternoon on Saturday. So really excited to be sharing those activations at the Wonderland conference.
I'm very thrilled. I know I mentioned this. Thank you so much for explaining all of that and sharing, because I know a lot of people are going to be so excited for this. And I know I mentioned this earlier before we started the podcast, that this is, and I just want to share it now because it is so important for people to hear. The first Wonderland, we decided to do a sex and psychedelics panel, but it was in a smaller room that we had. It was it was in our press room that we did it. We didn't even get to do it on the main stage. And people were so upset that they couldn't get into the room because it was so popular. And of course, it was interesting and popular because people wanted to learn from the panelists, just how psychedelics have allowed them to accept their sexuality, or allowed them to open up and disclose their fears and their desires to their partner, and allow them to deepen their relationship with their partner, allow them to, be honest about a part of their fantasies that are very meaningful for them, to their partner, all of these different topics that came up. And the bigger piece of it was that other people who have benefited from using psychedelics, who've allowed them to connect deeper with themselves or others, wanted to connect with people at the conference about this. They wanted to meet other people who, whether it's with dating or whether it's, developing a new relationship, a new friend, or somebody in the industry that they can connect with about how psychedelics have helped their sex life, has helped their relationships, has helped, in these ways. So it was probably one of the most talked about panels at the first Wonderland. And it was in high demand. So many people wanted more. They wanted to hear more. They wanted another panel the following year, which we ended up doing, and a workshop we did last year too. But it was incredibly popular. So I know that a lot of people have been wanting this and kind of waiting for it. And so, I'm just really, really excited for people to hear what's happening, and that they're going to be able to attend this.
It just shows, it speaks to evolution is really happening. Our society is really growing. Not only, we kind of pointed that out at the beginning of the podcast when it came to alcohol and younger generation of moving more away from alcohol. We're seeing the rise of sober events and, sober apogenic beverages. That are people are turn of True Kava. True Kava has sponsored We Deepen events before in the past. And I saw this as well at the Independent National Convention, which is a political conference that I spoke at in April of 2023. And I facilitated a love and politics panel discussion. I had Zach Bush and Charles Eisenstein and Del Bigtree and Stefanos and Gurren Jones. And that panel, Love and Politics at a political conference, that panel discussion was so well attended. And then after the discussion, we moved to a small room to continue a roundtable discussion on the same topic. And our room was packed out the door. People wanted to speak about love and politics. How are you going to inject love into politics? So to hear that this, intimacy is becoming a really important part of the conversation. And I can, for me, this is like my life dharma. I usually didn't really say that word that often in the past, but now I can see as my life continues to progress. I remember, years ago, I would go to in LA these speaker series. Friends would host this, speaker series where a lot of really affluent CEOs and business people would come and they would share their success stories. And I would always be the girl that raised my hand. Like, how's your love life? Like, do you have a wife? Are you married? How is that? And they always, their eyes would light up being like, why is she asking me about her love life? And it's a topic that we so often neglect. And it's, I remember, my New York City job of way back in the day, fantasy football was a big thing. And in the office, and there was like a stat that shared that around fantasy football time, productivity in offices would decline. And what employers don't fully understand is that when your employees are struggling in their relational life, which a lot of them are doing solo by themselves, and even when they're on the search, they have this longing for partnership and they're swiping on dating apps. Like that is something that's distracting them from being able to be fully present in their work. And they're doing it by themselves. And most companies are like, don't talk about your private life. This is where we work. You're not supposed to date inside your workplace, which is pre-dating apps. Most people, that's where they met. They met in the office and now we're working more remotely. So not only you don't even have the opportunity to meet them, let alone keep it secret from your boss. But that's, church, universities. So I'm so grateful that conferences like yours, the Wonderland Conference, is willing to be a little edgy and bring a dating event into the conference and to reconcile, hey, they want intimacy. They want love. Let's introduce them. Like we got all these people into the room. Let's use this as an opportunity to create some love stories.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you actually made a point very early on in this. You mentioned about people who are interested in a growth mindset or just interested in growth in general, self-growth, they want to, make better decisions, live with more purpose, or they, there's a lot of these themes that are kind of threaded through in the psychedelic space, or just this sort of like-mindedness around that, no matter what angle, you're coming from. And also just vulnerability. I think that as you're discovering more about yourself, whether it's through psychedelics or through just paying attention to your body, and you're more interested in biohacking and, biohacking tools, and you're paying more attention, you're going to learn more about yourself. You're going to feel more connected to yourself, and therefore you'll feel more connected to others. So being able to be in a room with other people who just have interest in that in general is just a beautiful thing, just bringing those people together. And then what you're doing is adding in your expertise on top of that, which is even more special. So yeah, I agree. And I just think that I just want to bring up that point about the growth. Just interested in growth in any area is a beautiful thing, because that is really hard to do. It takes a lot of courage to want to grow. It takes a lot of effort, and some people unfortunately just don't have the time for it, or they're going through things in their life, or they're just not ready. You know what I mean? So to be around other people who, just are ready to grow and expand and connect deeper. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. Last question for you. How's your love life?
Right now I am intentionally just, I would say, paying more attention to just my feelings as I'm going through day by day. I'm not on any dating apps. I've never been a fan of those. And yeah, I've had a lot of experiences, I think, over the last 3 years where I've just the last I would say like 4 to 6 months specifically, I've just been paying attention to how I feel, and if I feel connected to somebody, I will, want to explore that connection. And if I don't, I don't, but just paying more attention to how I'm feeling and just noticing that experience. And I feel very fulfilled by that. So, yeah, that's the answer of where I'm at.
That you're doing something that you love to do. You're in community and meeting a lot of interesting people on a daily basis.
I am. I'm very lucky in that area. Yes.
And to feel into your emotions in that way. One of the things that we actually bring forward in the dating dojo is this question to constantly be asking yourself when dating: does my soul feel safe with this person?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even, it doesn't matter how you identify. I think everybody has gone through experiences where maybe they have not paid attention enough, and we all want to live fulfilling lives, and we want to be able to be very honest with ourselves. And I've had some beautiful experiences in relationships, and I've also had experiences where I pushed my boundaries too much, or I didn't consider my own happiness, or I didn't consider, I just wasn't able to recognize, the things that I should have recognized, in the dynamic that wasn't working out. So I think even just in my age, like now being 33, and I'm doing something that I love, and I really care about my work. I really care about, how I want to enjoy my day every day. I want to take advantage of every single day, and even my friends and the people that I stay close with, I feel like I can really connect with about that. I think what's something I said to someone the other day that maybe you would like is I really have, my parents are such an amazing example of just two people who are best friends and still in love. And I'm very, very, very lucky to see that and witness it. It's incredibly rare. And I actually have taken more time to pay attention to them because I've embodied a lot of that. It's kind of how I'm hardwired, and I fall in love with my friend, like falling in love with my friends, meaning like I just see the best in people. And when I really feel connected to my friends or connected to people, I am such a giver, and I give so much. And sometimes I don't realize how much I'm giving. And I realize because that's a lot of what my parents showed each other. So if anything, I'm trying to take time this last year to just, preserve it a little bit, because I know that I want to pay attention to who it is I'm connecting with and why, and if I'm ready to give as much as I would like to give. And that's just that's what I mean by just taking it day by day and just kind of noticing more, because I've in the past not realized how much I was, and it just, you know what I mean? And you kind of get lost in it. And I want to be able to be more intentional in that.
Sounds brilliant. Like a good strategy at this point in your life. Yes. Discernment, feeling into yourself, and trusting your journey. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And I'm excited to meet you in person. We'll be together at the Wonderland Conference. If you're listening, definitely come out and join us. If you go to wedeepen.com, and also I'm going to link this in the description, you'll see right on the front page is the Wonderland Conference. Click on that RSVP. We'll give you a promo code that you can receive 20% off of the conference registration. And if you would like to join us in the Love Club, you can go to, that's linked from wedeepen.com, or go directly to wedeepenloveclub.com, and you can apply to join us. And if you do before October 30th, I'm going to give you a ticket to come and join us at the Wonderland Conference. And I will personally volunteer to be your wing woman. We'll date together throughout the conference and talk to everybody about their love lives and have a lot of fun while we're doing, and we'll get to bond together. And I'm going to bring a little small group together. So, in the big conference arena, we'll get to have our little tribe together. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to meet you in person. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And thank you all for listening. Until next time, I love you.